Hello, my name is Dr. Jessica Turner-Scoff, and I'm the Associate Director of Science Communications here at the one and only amazing Longwood Gardens. Plants are so integrated into our lives that we often can't even tease it apart from our experience. They are so important, and it's really essential that we take a step back and think about the incredible nature of plants so we are able to share their story as effectively as possible. There's over 350,000 different types of plants in this world, vascular plants in particular, and they really need their stories shared. What I like to start out with is just kind of thinking about how amazing plants are. They're truly resilient, there's incredible diversity, and so the first part of this presentation will be a celebration of those things. Just look at all of the different forms that plants can take, all the different areas that they grow, all of the different niches, and how much life that they support in all of these environments. It's absolutely incredible. Now, the next couple slides, it's just a celebration of the extremes. And if I went up to a random person and I said, what's the largest organism in the world? They probably would say, a male blue whale. That's not the case, however. It's actually Pando, a quaking aspen, Populus tremuloides. It's in Utah, in North America. It covers 106 acres, and it's estimated to weigh 13 million pounds. This is all one organism. It spreads clonally. They're all connected. All of these, what seem as individual trees, are part of a greater whole. The tallest organism in the world is Hyperion, a coastal redwood found in California. When you're looking at this massive stately structure that's over 1,000 years old, you might see little blips of color along the trunk, but those are not flowers or anything. Those are people. This tree germinated from a single seed and has not moved for over 1,000 years. And now it's about 1/4 times taller than the Statue of Liberty. Incredible. However, it has nothing on Methuselah as far as age goes. This is a bristlecone pine, another North American tree found in Nevada. It's 4,700 years old. That number is so large, it is almost impossible for the human brain to wrap its mind around it. This tree had woolly mammoths, were alive on the earth at the same time. In fact, it was already 200 to 300 years old before the pyramids of Giza were built. This tree has stood literally the test of time, and it's still growing and surviving. It demonstrates how plants have some really amazing resilient tendencies despite not being able to move. Animals can migrate if they're in an uncomfortable situation, but plants stay put. Now, we just talked about some really impressive weights, heights, ages, but there's also something so impressive in the small. So this is a type of watermeal, and it is 1 millimeter in length. These are all individual plants. Even how plants reproduce can be incredible to observe. This is the lily corpse flower. It's over 3 feet across. It has no roots, shoots, stems, or leaves, and it's parasitic. It actually is visually undetectable basically until it prepares to bloom. And apparently that center floral chamber, you can actually put a baby in it. It's that large. Really crazy life history. It's fly pollinated, just absolutely incredible. The different varieties of plants in nature out there. Well, that's the extreme size of a flower. There's also really some substantial differences with seeds. So for example, the orchid seed can be as small as 0.05 millimeters. It can basically be like just dust. But compare that to the double coconut. This, this seed is 20 inches long and 55 pounds. It is incredibly large. So just even that, from this dust to what's roughly the size of a 6-year-old. Plants are amazing. Plants are absolutely resilient. They evolved around 470 million years ago. They're found on every continent. For example, did you know that even Antarctica has 2 species of plants? There you go. I just gave you a little piece of trivia for your next party or, trivia night. They can grow from everything from tundra to hot volcanic soil. And the elevation differences alone, I mean, they can grow 20,000 feet above sea level to 190 feet below the ocean's surface. Plants are very good at finding a niche and making it work for them. Plants support life. I always say that we need plants so much for everything. And one of the ways that this is truly seen is because plants are primary producers. So they take in carbon dioxide, a waste product from humans. They take up water, they take sunlight in, and from that, they create the energy that is used to fuel all other life and oxygen, something that we would not be able to survive without. So this alone people should be celebrating plants on the streets for the fact that they take our waste product, water and sunlight, and provide us with life. This is a model from NASA looking at carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide in plants over the course of a year. Now, as you can see, the darker the reds to the pink, that's higher level of carbon dioxide. White is higher levels of carbon monoxide. And this is, right now, the northern hemisphere is in winter. So you can see that there's not a lot of carbon dioxide being taken up from plants. But look at the pulse that you see down in Brazil. That is the lungs of the earth, the rainforest. And you can see that contribution of those plants taking in that CO2 and sunlight and water and creating oxygen. Now, as we move into spring and summer, we're going to see a drastic change in the northern hemisphere. This is just what plants do for us. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to worry whether or not it's going to happen. As long as we are taking care of plants, they are cleaning our air. Plants support animals. They are the food for animals. And if they're not the direct food, they're the food of the food. They are environmental regulators, as we just saw with that carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, but they're also really important for nutrient cycles, for water cycles. They provide structure in the environment, and they provide homes, either directly or indirectly. A bird may have a home in a tree, but its nest is made directly of pieces of plants. Humans often like to separate themselves from animals, however, that is not the case. And as I just mentioned, plants are food. And just to think about all of the different types of plants that you eat in a day, in a week, all of the different types of plants that have gone into just keeping you alive. And there's a very rich interwoven history between plants and humans. So humans have been doing some form of agriculture, I think it's around 12,000 years. And they've been domesticating teosinte, a wild grass native to Mexico, for roughly 10,000 years. And you can see over that course of 10,000 years how that wild relative of corn has basically been transformed into the corn that we know and love. Human culture and plants are so interwoven, you can't tease them out. You can think about apples and tulips and all of these other incredible things. We are integrated into that world. Over 28,000 different types of plant species are being used as medicine. From the willow, which is basically a stone's throw from aspirin, it's been used for thousands and thousands of years as a pain reliever. Pacific yew, which has been responsible for some of the top anti-cancer drugs. Plants are an incredible resource for trying to find out how to heal and help humans. And just, we still don't know all of the ways that different plant species could benefit us. There's still a huge area of research and study is trying to understand how we might be able to harness the power of plants to improve the mental and physical health of humans. As I mentioned before, look at your homes. Look at where you're sitting right now. Just look around. How many different ways can you see how plants are benefiting you? From paper to cotton to making your foods even taste better. We use plants daily, and we should be celebrating them daily. Now, beyond oxygen, beyond food, beyond medicine, plants are simply essential for humans. Study after study after study, controlling for extraneous variables, shows that physical and mental health is dependent on being around plants. Ulrich in 1984 did a study looking out of hospital rooms, and if you had a green view, you were more likely to heal better and faster and need lower levels of heavy-duty painkillers. One study looked at high schools across Michigan, and again, controlling for variables. They found if students had a green, verdant, diverse view from their lunchroom, they were more likely to get better grades and to be more likely to graduate. Plants improve our overall well-being. There is something that humans just physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually connect with being out in nature and among beautiful plants. A resilient future will depend on the health and diversity of plants in our environment. We need plants for our lives, we need them for survival, and we need them because they make our lives worth living. When you saw this image pop up, what was the first thing that you noticed? Now, if you said anything but the big cat, I would have been shocked. It's very in line. It's human evolutionary history that, you're more likely, your brain is hardwired to recognize what could be an immediate danger to you. Now there are some prickly plants in the background, but that's nothing compared to what what a big cat could do to you. And experts have a term for this. It used to be called plant blindness, but now it's plant awareness disparity. And it's this idea that plants kind of just blend into the background for a lot of humans. And that's where we can actually do something about it. There's a long history of why this is happening, and I'm just going to go into some of the basics. First of all, most schools stop teaching plant-based concepts in the 3rd grade. That's incredibly young. And that's oftentimes people's only touch point with plants is through the schools. 0 middle schoolers in focus groups across the country said they had heard of the word horticulture. And horticulture is simply the art and science of growing plants, which is pretty essential for life, as we discussed. The average person in the US can identify more than 1,000 brands and logos, but fewer than 10 local plants. There's just a disconnect. We need people to understand and appreciate how important plants are. And only 26% of surveyed people agreed with that horticulture is a diverse area of study and it offers a viable, fulfilling, and respected career path. And I want to point out my own story. So you see that little girl there looking at the herb garden, late 80s, early 90s. You can see the love that I'm looking at those plants. And I was privileged enough that I grew up in a home with just a huge appreciation for nature and for plants, and it was encouraged and it was fostered. But it wasn't until much later in my life that I realized I could have a viable, amazing career working with plants. And so that's one of the things that I think is wonderful about different initiatives like Seed Your Future and how public gardens are really working to make that connection, because oftentimes the kids aren't going to get it in school, so we need to be finding new ways to supplement and create that connection and love. And as I grew up to be a scientist, I just want to be anatomically correct. Well, and it's not just in schools. This is happening all over. For example, if you have ever saw The Martian, it's been out for a while, so spoiler alert, but this is on you. So essentially Mark Watney is left on Mars and there's a huge rescue mission to get him. And at one point he plants potatoes and he yells out, "I'm the greatest botanist on this planet." But words matter and it makes a difference how we get people to think about plants. And botany is the study of plants. Horticulture is the art and science of growing plants. So really, Mark Watney should have been yelling about his skills as being a horticulturist. We have a lot of work to do, but there is there's no group of people that's more passionate and excited to make change than plant people. There's a lot of threats right now, especially in regards to plants. So, there's habitat loss. This is a huge issue. Climate change is occurring. Things are getting hotter and plants can't move. They're stuck in the ground. Natural disasters are increasing. Not only that, but there's this fun impact where all of these are just kind of exacerbating each other. They're making each other worse. But what's the one key issue that we're concerned about with all of these threats? We're worried about biodiversity loss. The quote attributed to Chief Seattle really captures this. All things are connected like the blood that unites us. We do not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. We need to be consciously aware of what is happening and working to make a difference. There are over 80,000 different types of threatened plant species. And to put that in context, that's more than all of the described mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish combined. There are more threatened plants than all of those described groups. That is a huge amount of threatened plants. So not only if we lose those species, are we losing that species right now, but diversity now also means diversity later. So if we're looking at a time scale of eons, one species will evolve into multiple new species. What happens, though, when that species goes extinct? All future diversity from that species is lost. So it's really an ethical question about our action. Not only are we impacting ourselves right now, our survival, but we are also impacting the future in ways that we can't even understand or know. And I bet you can guess where this one's going. Which one of these species is more endangered? We have the giant panda, which is China's national treasure, adorable, sweet, cuddly. We have the Fraser fir, America's favorite Christmas tree. Well, in their native range, the Fraser fir is actually more endangered than the giant panda. And that goes to that plant awareness disparity. That goes to the idea that we need to be really stressing the importance of plants, thinking about why plants matter, and sharing this story so we can get people to care. And the truth of the matter is that due to plant awareness disparity, we need to be advocating as hard as we can. For example, if you look at the Endangered Species Act funding, 1.17 billion, 3 comma club, is spent on animals. Only 23 million is spent on plants, basically 2%. But when you look down at the breakdown of per animal or plant, 2.4 million is spent on each animal and on average, and 30,000 on average is spent on each plant. So despite plants being essential for animal survival, there is a huge disconnect. Plants are resilient, but now more than ever, they need our help. And it's very exciting when you learn all of the work that is going on, from public gardens and botanic gardens and arboreta working together to save and understand and change the world as far as conserving and protecting plants. We have passionate people. There's a huge movement for understanding how native plants and plants that promote biodiversity can be integrated into home gardening. We have initiatives like Seed Your Future that are filled with people who are ready to make a difference, ready to engage people on the importance of plants. And while there's a lot of scary stuff happening right now, this is ultimately a message of hope. Because plants do need people, and people need plants. And we are working together to make sure that we have that resilient future. And at the end of the day, I hope that we all walk away thinking about how essential plants are and how essential horticulture is. And the work that we are doing is going to have a lasting, large impact on the rest of the world and the future. You can help, absolutely. There's lots of ways that individuals can work on supporting and protecting plants. So what can you do to be a plant superhero? There's a couple different actions that I like to outline, and it's really just wherever you are, you can start small, you can start big. Just advocate for plants and support biodiversity wherever you can. Plant native plants. When you're gardening or your local community, think about the structure. Think about different layers, herbaceous covers, shrubs, trees. Think about the different habitat. Think about food and water for animals. Plant a tree, but I always say plant the right tree in the right place and give it the right care afterwards. Take a class if you're able. That's a great opportunity. Longwood has a ton of continuing education opportunities, but learn about what you can do and it's not just limited to Longwood. There's a ton of different options out there. You can participate in community science projects like Project Budburst, iNaturalist, or Bird Counts. That's a great, that third QR code is a great link to a website that has some of those options. Educate others. There are so many amazing ways that we can talk about plants and get people excited about them. And honestly, the material sells itself. You just need to find that connection and tell the story well. And support Seed Your Future and your local public garden. Find ways to create that emotional touch point with plants so we can steward a new generation that is passionate and that advocates for the green world. Thank you.